Jason from MrTheBigMan.net. The second part of our tutorial, I want to go through the sound design things that you can do with Kong. We're going to look at making synth bass drums, snares, hi-hats, using some of the effects essentially that we have to hand in order to be able to make them really, really big and really, really tight. In order to do that, I'm just going to show you on Kong. You need to click on this down arrow here, and that brings up the bottom part of the pane. Now this allows us to essentially select what we're going to put onto this pad. If we click on the down arrow here, it gives us a drop down menu. We're going to go first of all with synth bass drum. That brings us up a fairly straightforward bass drum sound. I'm just going to hit play so you can hear it. And we're just going to look at the different parameters and have a wee look at how we can make that into a bass drum that we would hear normally. Obviously that's a very techno-ish type bass drum. We're going to continue to press play, and I'm going to go through each of the sections one by one to let you understand exactly what they do. Hopefully you'll be able to hear it, but if not, you can try it along at home. Okay, so this part then is the pitch of the drum, and hopefully you can hear that that's changing its pitch. The actual bass drum itself. We have a bend amount to the pitch, so if I put that the whole way up, you're going to hear that's essentially affecting the transient of the drum, and that's what's giving us that big chunky kind of kick in the middle. We can also change the tone. So as you can see, we can get a almost like a better decay amount on the actual tone itself. So that's dropping the decay so that there's very little coming out of it. And then we're making that bigger. It's much bigger with that sound. So we'll just run that through to the middle again. Here essentially is the noise portion of the bass drum itself. Again, if I turn that up, you can hear that now, hopefully. It's almost like a snare rattle in the background. Again, that's just for the actual end part. We can change the noise. You can see that pretty much is taking over the whole sound. And here we've got a snare. Okay, so we've got a much meatier kick drum now because of that. On this part, we're looking at the actual click. So bass drums are made up essentially of two different elements. You've got the, let's turn that off, you've got the main thump, but you've also got high frequency content in the form of a click. Sometimes hip hop producers will use hi-hats to provide that underneath a kind of an 808 or a 909 kick drum. But in this we can actually set this up ourselves to not actually need to do that. So I'll press play again. And you can hear the click hopefully coming through there. If not, follow along and you'll get it. Again, we'll get the depth of the click. Which is essentially, from what I can hear from here, a high and low pass filter. So we're moving between high and low, so that essentially the click is there when we turn it the whole way to the left, but when we turn it to the right, it's kind of, we're only getting the bass part of that click. And again, the click level, which is essentially a volume control for the click itself, as you can hear. Okay, so we've got the attack time. And you can hear how essentially this is just an envelope. So by putting the attack up high, it's taking its time in order to give us the first transient kick. I want to put that right down because I want it to be able to smack right on the one. And then the decay of the kick itself, you'll hear this. Yeah, essentially that's cutting out the length of the actual kick itself. so we've got a fairly meaty kick drum there. Want to have a look at some of the effects. Just you'll note here, there's two effects, two insert effects. There's a send effects and there's a master effects. Very rarely use this, simply because I can get what I need out of these two. But if we click the down arrow again, you'll note that we get quite a lot of different effects that we can actually add to this. What I want to have a look at today for the bass drum is a transient shaper. And that comes up like so. Essentially, that's just to make sure that it smacks. It's all about the attack and the decay of the actual drum itself. So I'll just press play. As you see, as I turn that up now, I'm getting a really big smack, a really big kick. And a really, really massive sound. And then I'm going to compress that. I don't know if you can hear in the background, but my snare drum's going mental because of the bass coming out of this thing. One thing I have noticed whenever I've played these sounds through my subwoofer in the front room, really managed to get a really big bass sound out of this. I know in software it's not usually the best because we always have to end up saturating it or parallel compressing it, but the sounds coming out of these synth kick drums are really, really big. So we'll move from that on to the snare drum. I'm going to take these effects out and I'm going to select synth snare. Essentially, it gives us the same group of parameters. We've got the main pitch engine and decay engine for the snare drum itself. We have the noise here, and then we have the main body of the sound here, the harmonic content. That's essentially the smack. You know, again, you have two parts of the smack, and then you have the roll off of the snare. So we'll just press play again. You can hear that, I'm sure, fairly well. Again, we can go with pitch, we can go up higher if we want. Bear in mind, the higher we go up and mess with this, we can turn it into a hi-hat. Decay does exactly what it says. It cuts down the overall length of the snare, or makes it bigger, which is quite hefty. Harmonic content is in regards to the actual smack of the snare. So if I turn this up, you'll hear the tone of the snare completely change. And we've got the decay of that. So you can hear that. And then we've got the balance. You might not want an awful lot of that in our actual snare sound. So we can take it out, or we can put more of it in. And then we have the noise. The noise essentially is giving us the tail of the snare drum. So what we do with that is we can make it longer, we can make it bigger, but we can also change the tone of that again. And again, that's essentially a sound design tool to fit it into the track. So we're always looking at pitching here, and we're always looking at making sure that the pitches of our snare drums, our kick drums, our hi-hats meet the pitch of the actual melodic content of any tracks. So as you can hear, that's taken all of the noise out, and that's putting additional pieces of noise in. Again, we have a decay parameter for the length of the noise itself, as you can hear. Quite big. You can almost understand how that would be used heavily in creating hi-hats that we'll see later on. And then we've got the noise mix again, so we can take it out. And we've got a kick drum, believe it or not. We can put it in and make it much, much bigger than what it was before. Now the next insert effect I want to look at for this is called the rattler. Now this has been set up specifically to give us that snare rattle from below the snare drum. So if you have ever seen a snare drum, you've got the top of the snare, and then you've got the snare on the bottom, which essentially creates that rattle sound. So what Propellerheads have done is they've actually put an effect in there that actually gives us that rattle. So if I just put it in Rattler, So this is turned the whole way down. You can hear how that's tightening up the overall drum sound. And we've got a tone of the rattle itself. So again, we can make sure that it fits in with the melodic content of our track. We've got a decay and how long that lasts for, and how big that will be. As you can hear. Again, perfect for sound design. And then we've got the tone, which we can change, and we've got the overall level. You can hear how whenever I make that up a lot higher, in level, the snare starts to really tighten up in sound, but it has that real thwack, that real whack as if you were hitting it with a drumstick, and that's really, really important, and really, really cool. And one of the best things that they probably could have put into Kong is exactly that, just for creating a proper snare sound. So lastly, now we'll look at the hi-hats. Hi-hats are fairly simple in regards to it. As you can see, there's nothing really there apart from the overall pitch of the sound and the click and the noise portion of the sound. So again, I'll just hit play. We're playing with the pitch. Decay drops it the whole way down, or else we've got other cymbals. Right there. And again, we'll just play with the overall click, so we can make it a lot tighter as far as the, as if the drumstick was hitting the actual thing itself. We've got the tone of the click itself, so again we can set that up to make sure that it fits in with our track. And then we've got a simple ring modulator function at the bottom. If we turn that off, it just gives us a straight hi-hat. But if we turn it up, you can't really hear it on this, but you'll hear the hi-hat differ in frequency as it's hit every single time. Again, a very, very good thing if you want to make sure that your drum kit sounds like a drummer's played it, because a drummer will never hit it exactly the same every single time. So use the ring modulator in order to be able to do that for yourself. And it'll make it much more humanized and much better sounding compared to the normal quantized sounds that you normally get. Now for this, I normally like to put it through a overdrive, just in order to make sure that I get a really, really crunchy sound. And then through the compressor at the end, just to make sure that it's really, really big. Okay, so that's only looked at 3 of those. There are many other ones. We've got physical bass drum, snare drum, tom. Also, we can put loops into Kong, which is something we'll look at the next time. And also we can create toms as well. Now, the thing about creating toms is they're really, really good, especially for minimal house. Absolutely fabulous sounds, and we can use the built-in tape echo to make that sound almost like that sound that you get in the Michael Woods remix of that Deadmau5 track that's on his last album. Was created using the tom sound run through a tape echo, and you can pretty much get a very usable result directly from Kong in order to be able to do that. Thanks very much.